PGA2K23. Yeah. Hope your day is going well. Probably play a couple rounds and then see how things are going. Got on a little earlier today. I don't know, didn't really feel like, usually I go for a walk after work, but today, I mean, I walked home and it's not like terribly far. It's probably like maybe a little bit under half a mile, maybe a half mile, I don't know. Anyway, I was kind of like, I really wasn't feeling like going out for another walk, getting home, changing, getting ready, and then going for a walk again. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna eat. Plus I was kind of hungry, so I was like, I'll just eat something and then play a little video games. Anyway. Oh my God. The upside is it's another hole, and I can get that back. I don't want to hit too hard. There we go. that that was there was no like perfect timing, nothing like that. It was just like that was I wasn't even trying, like not bragging there. I did not expect it to go in. Let's just say that. Blue Beetle review from at least from IGN. They gave it a 7 out of 10. Let's see if I can. I'll pull up their actual article. Alright, so fast, funny, and fervently earnest, Blue Beetle stands out in an increasingly overcrowded field of superhero movies. Clocking in at just over 2 hours, the pacing is snappy enough that it never overstays its welcome. And while it's not entirely unpredictable, the tale of Jaime Reyes, probably butchered that, but it's okay. This sentiment outer space scarab who symbiotically linked to him avoids becoming an eye-rolling origin story cliche by remaining deeply and empathetic towards its ensemble. Let's see. Let's see what else. Said the villain falls flat, which ultimately hinders the cinematic confrontation or the climatic confrontation. Blue Beetle is a superhero movie that sets itself apart within the bloated genre through the deeply connected bonds of Jaime and the rest of the family. It's a wonderful cast, but able to convey the it says the villain is relatively uninteresting. The villain's relatively uninteresting motivation impede the momentum of the third act. The emotional force that behind the movie is well enough to make it worth watch. Yeah, so it's like seems like there's a lot of just like it's fine, mediocre. Like maybe the villain's not as great. I don't even know who the villain is, and that. Oh God! Just dropped my phone. I could just put a brand new screen protector on it, so I'm like trying to get it to not to be cracked after like only 4 days of use. So far, I just dropped it. I don't see any cracks on it. I didn't drop it too hard either. But this stuff cracks so easily. It's crazy, like how protective screens just break. Okay, so Susan Sarandon is the she's the villain. On IGN, people are giving it a 6.8 out of 10. I don't know. Rotten Tomatoes has got an 84%. It's sometimes like hard to tell like within these like reviews whether or not they're how honest people are being, or like if there's the bias within it. You know, that's the kind of things I don't like. I kind of like some. It just depends. Sometimes the movie, it can be also like you can tell like if there's like the review is going to be skewed a particular way just because of like maybe the subject matter, or maybe it's just like the movie that's out, or or like whatever that's maybe the topic. GameSpot gave it a 3 out of 10. People reviewing it. This one, see, this is what I don't like. This has got to be a troll account. Uh, like this is definitely the worst hero movie in movie history. It's like the worst movie. That's pretty hard. Like that's a pretty um, high bar to set for like uh, superhero movies. I'm sure I could think of like some other ones that are like probably. I haven't seen the movie personally. I will watch it, but I'm definitely gonna wait until it comes out in like streaming. But still, like there's from at least from like the general consensus is that it's decent. There are definitely way worse like superhero movies that came out in like the even if you go back far enough, like in the 70s and 80s when they came out with like Iron Man and Captain America, I think had his own movie. And those just, I mean, I've never seen them, but they look awful. But even like in modern times, like I can think of like the sequel to The Punisher was just kind of like ugh. Hellboy, the one that was like recent, like David. It wasn't terrible, but it was kind of like a snooze fest. I think it came out in 2016, but it wasn't great. It was kind of like very run of the mill. I think the sequel to The Punisher was kind of like a snoozer. Even like Spawn was kind of like another meh movie. Blade Trinity, that's another. I mean, so like there are definitely terrible superhero movies out there. Um, so to say it's the worst one, that's pretty much that's got to be like troll shit. And that's one thing, like that's the thing I don't get, like like I mean obviously nobody's gonna have it, like there's not always gonna be like a consensus, like but it's like whatever reason that person posted like the worst movie ever, like what's their rationale, like either they're just trying to troll people, or it's uh like you have an incredible bias towards for whatever reason, like um what movie was it that came out, like it was the Ghostbusters, where it was like an all-female cast, and it was like getting shit on by a, like a lot of people, and it's like I went and saw it. I thought it was okay. Like it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. I thought it was funny at moments, and I thought it was like it's a decent, like it was at times, like it's just always like it was kind of like a rehashing of the to some degree, like rehashing the original one, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, but it wasn't great either. Like, and it was certainly. I found it to be a little bit better than the one that came out not too long ago with Paul Rudd in it. Um, Although that was fine, like it wasn't great. Uh, but obviously, like certain people's like that's the thing I don't like about reviews. Like I just don't trust like certain like uh, reviews and like I take even with IGN, like I take it with a grain of salt because like who knows like if they're getting paid by uh, they obviously get to go to the premiere, so like they're gonna give it a little more favorable spin because they're like I don't know necessarily because of their like because they're not being paid, but just because of the euphoria of like, oh, I went to this movie, I got to see this movie before anybody else. Da, da, da. So like you feel good, you feel happy, and it's like you leave it going like a little bit of that and like endorphins kick in while you're going to see it. So it's like and afterwards you're like that carries over, but I don't know. I think it's I take it with a grain of salt with some of their reviews like. Um, So I don't know, but I just don't in general just don't trust reviews from uh, online or even like news media. Um, and it also always seems like movie reviews are all over the place. Like it's it's like how can you give? This is my other thing is like, so going back to IGN for a second, like how can you give like a movie like Fast and the Furious like a 7 out of 10, but then a movie that's like Oscar nominated that has all these accolades, wonderfully acted, uh, wonderful story, the same like almost same score. Like where's the criteria here? Like where's the benchmark? What's the um, what's the test, like the litmus test or whatever, where it's like, oh, okay, yes, this is like, shouldn't anything that's not like great, like from an acting story, shouldn't it be like in the fours and fives just because like it doesn't have that strong of a like uh, uh, like talent or whatever or skill in there. I don't know. And we just as a society just accept that because that's it's well that's because it's an action movie and it's a comedy or it's not meant to be like artistic or whatever. It's meant to be just there for sheer uh, fluff. You know what I mean? Like anyway, I'm gonna beat this guy. I don't know if there's any strategy like teeing off. Like I just know if it's super windy, I try to I want to go against. I want to go the opposite direction. So if it's like in this case, let's say the wind is going like it's blowing from right to left. I'm gonna go this way. But if it's left to right, I'm gonna go like I'm gonna go against it basically. So I get that part, but like teeing off, it just kind of seems like so long as you're within the green and it's not super windy, you should be able to just smack it, and then hopefully, you're good. But like once you get closer to the like actual like tee or the not tee, but the hole, it's like it seems like there's a little more like okay, I gotta be. I see that the wind's changed a little bit, and it's the slope is going right to left, and it's definitely downward and a very fast downward. So I want to make sure I'm not like I don't fall to that because the ball, if I hit it here and it rolls, it'll roll all the way down here, and I'll be pissed. So like I kind of have to be like a little bit more mindful and hit it maybe to this way a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. There's any bounce on these. It's not terrible bounce on that. Looks like it's so it didn't roll too bad, which is good. Here it's like you got to make sure you're not going too far, like hitting down the hitting it past. Like it's gotta just go down the. You gotta move it to the right a little bit because it's sloped down to the left. That's fine. Still within par. But so there's like a little bit of strategy there, like on the at least on the green, but or not at the green, but on the when you're close to the hole, it's like it makes like there's a little more. But here it's like, is there any real like strategy to hitting it? I mean, other than like avoiding the sand traps, that's kind of duh. But you know, does it matter? Like if you hit it here, 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 what is it? You know, does there any real difference? Like there's. I think it says plus 20, so I'm assuming that means that it's going to roll quite a bit. Not terrible, like not too much roll. I'm gonna put it back a little bit. I probably could have pushed it up a little bit further or a little bit closer to the cup, but yeah, it's okay. Oh, damn. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there is like a strategy to all this. Like if you hit it, maybe you want to hit it. Well, this one's gonna be plus 20. So like, I kind of feel like it's gonna roll. Maybe put it right there. We'll move it to the right because it's sloping. It's going down. It's going from right to left slope-wise. So I'm going to do that. And hopefully... not bad. It's okay. I don't know if that was because I moved the joystick, or if I just wasn't aiming right. I think it's because of the joystick. Come on, Jerry Golfer, let's go. Oh, damn, that was too soft. Freaking A. I don't know why one. Oh my god. I watched Cocaine Bear last night. That, for me, was not entertain. Like, I watched it all the way through, but it was very. I thought it was gonna be funnier than uh, than what it was. Like, there was one part that was funny, like actually like made me laugh. Um, Other than that, like, it's if you want the spectacle, it's kind of silly because, like, I mean, I don't know, like, if they were, like, what they were, like, is it, like, obviously, like, I think they were trying to portray, like, the bear's addicted to cocaine, and that's all it's really after, but then it's like, okay, why are you mauling people then if you're, like, if you're just trying to look for coke? Like, I don't know, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's, supposedly it was based upon a true story, so it was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I kind of felt like the trailer made it seem like it was going to be funnier. The it kind of like it didn't make. There was some stuff that was like the uh, story like kind of didn't really wrap up well. It's kind of like, okay, like how are you gonna just I don't know if it's spoiler, but it's also like, I don't know, maybe I'm doing you a favor, but the bear lives. I mean, it lives because there's like an end credit scene or a post credit scene that's like where the bear is like with its cubs, and it's like, but it's kind of like, I don't know, like how does is it a recovering addict, or like what's the, I don't know, it's kind of, you would think that the story should wrap up, at least in the sense of like, that the bear was killed. And then you're like, oh, well, what about the cubs? And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you would have to, like, from the story, like, oh, maybe you would have to say they would have to die as well. I don't know. Because they were all addicted to cocaine. And it's like, you can't have a bunch of bear cubs running around all coked up. And you can't have a bear running around that's all coked, like, that's addicted to coke. I don't know. It just felt sloppy towards the end. Like one of the main villains, like, just kind of like has plenty of time to escape, has plenty of time to like to go leave the area, or even has like an opportunity to get away with the thing that he's wanting to get away with, and it's like, but it's like it just feels like they stall way too much, and only so that they could wrap up the movie with like a sort of like a villain, and one of the villains dying. And it kind of also felt a little like I don't know, like like it didn't feel very cathartic in the sense of like as to why, like, when the bad guy dies, you're kind of like I was like, oh, he's the bad guy, but also like at the same time, like, I understand where he's coming from, and I don't know, it just wasn't like as neat or tidy of a storyline as I thought it was, like, or as it should have been. There were some like redemptive like characters. Like the characters were great. So that was kind of like one of the upsides. Like I liked the characters, although I don't even remember the character's name, but I think he's Ice Cube's son. Like it, I don't know. You start out liking him, and you're like, oh, this dude's kind of badass, and then towards the end, you're like, kind of like, it just takes a weird turn, like, I don't know, that you're like, I don't like it. Like, I know characters can have like their story arcs to where they're like, they change throughout the story, but his story arc was just very weird, because it's like at one point it's like I didn't feel sympathetic towards him at the end, and it's kind of like, even though he kind of leaves the world behind, it's kind of like I didn't feel like it was like like it was enough of like a like a turning point to where it was like, okay, like it's just, yeah, it just didn't, I don't know. The one thing I'll say is that the twist seems like it fit really well because like I didn't see it coming. But damn. But it also kind of was like, okay, like maybe that was like the one other redeeming qualities, like this twist you didn't see coming out of the middle, like, okay, but there seemed to be also like just like when people died, it seemed like some of it was just for like to be gross for gross sake, like, and then also like the shock value of the some of the stuff was like it was too predictable, or it was too like it was like not expecting it, like in the sense of like I wasn't necessarily predicting that was going to happen, but it was kind of like, okay, I've seen this a million times before. Like there was a scene where one of the characters gets shot in the head, and it was kind of like it's not only is his death not necessarily that like it felt very too set up, too like too telegraphed, like you're kind of like, okay, this is gonna happen, and maybe maybe it was I guess as I'm saying it out loud, it's like, okay, yeah, that's a little like predictable, but it felt also like, okay, and by the shock of it, it was like they were like, the shock factor didn't, like, because I've seen this too many times before, like this type of thing before in stories, and then even like when people like when characters are supposed to be grossed out by the fact that this person's like blood and brains are all over them, it's kind of like it just wasn't delivered in a way that was like are you really that surprised that because you just like it was kind of a delayed reaction. It was kind of like, oh, I just shot this dude in the face, oops, and it took a while for them to it felt like it took them for a while for them to react to it. I kind of vaguely remember like the bear being like stunned, which, like, thinking back on it, that's like kind of funny because it's like, but I don't know. It just didn't work for me as like far as like gross out humor, where I've seen that sort of stuff before, where it's kind of like, I've seen that sort of like where it's like, it worked better in those movies, like where it's like it was funny. Seeing that sort of like they're like, oh my god, I've just been sprayed with blood and guts and whatever, and it's like, but I don't know. Overall, like, I wouldn't like rush out to go watch it again, like, unless I was at a friend's house and they're like, oh hey, let's watch this. Oh, okay, sure, I suppose. I don't know that there was anything like really worthwhile for me to go like, oh, I need to, like, maybe there's some like the gaps filled in, like how did this guy die, because I was kind of like zoning in and out of it, or where did this person go, and there's some stuff that was like unnecessarily cruel, like just to certain characters. It's like, what's the reason, like why is this person getting this fate, like that's and it doesn't seem to make sense, like there's been times like in movies where this one, and then the other incident I could think of like right off the bat is like where it's okay, like you're gonna die in creature features, but like have it make sense, or have it be like, um, I don't know, it just felt unjustly uh, like out of nowhere. Like, why does this person, like, what makes it, what if you just need to have a body count or need somebody to die, I guess, but it just kind of feels like, what's the rationale? Like, the somehow it should make sense, but there was a couple times in Cocaine Bear where it was kind of like it felt a little too like, man, you're really like, what did this character do to you that you're having it be mauled, and like, is it a shock factor, or are you trying to like make an audience, like, it just kind of felt very random. And there's like this character who like who climbs a tree, and he has cocaine on him. So like that part was kind of like well set up, but it was kind of like, but the bear, instead of just like sniffing the cocaine or that was on the guy, it mauls him, and it's like this kind of drawn out point of like characters just getting mauled, and you kind of watch it, like you don't see it, but until the guy's body drops to the ground, but it just kind of feels it felt very drawn out and just kind of like almost unnecessary. And I was like, this is almost too much, like, not from a gratuitous standpoint, but just like too much, like you're spending a lot of time on something that has very little, like, very little meaning to this storyline, or doesn't have as much impact on the story. So that's what I was like, I didn't really get it. Now, like when the bear like does coke off the guy's leg, severed leg, it was kind of like, okay, that's kind of amusing, but I think they could have, if that was what it was setting it up for, like I felt like they could have gotten to that point a little sooner. Oh man. Oh. I don't know. It just kind of, from like a story perspective, also like structure wise, there was this thing like the climax of the film, like it just kind of was like it was like, what's the what's happening here? Like, why is this like it was very bizarre. I don't know. Like, and even that, like, there was the guy, so like one of the points of the movie where the bear, there's two guys that are laying on the ground. The bear kind of I think it's coming down off a high, and now it's just kind of falling asleep, and it falls asleep on top of the guy, and they're talking about how did they get the bear off their friend, and they call it, they say, well, let's get him off our friend, and the guy underneath the bear says, let's get her off me. And they're like, how do you know it's a girl? Well, it's like, and the guy's like, well, because her vagina's on my head. And I'm like, but his head is up by her head. And I'm like, at the anatomy of a bear, her vagina would be back further behind, like, her hind leg. So like, that's not accurate. I mean, like, I get what the kind of like joke they're going for, but it's like, at least be autonomous, like anatomically correct, or like position the person to where it would make sense that the bear's vagina would be sitting on top of their head, but it's kind of like yeah, I don't know. It was from a funny standpoint. Like I said, there was only one time I actually got like I was like, I actually found it like the moment funny, like laughed out loud or and then there was some other stuff that was like there's a kind of a chase sequence where the bear's chasing an ambulance, and it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe thinking about it now, it's like maybe that they were trying to portray like the bear's on cocaine, so it's gonna run faster and chase down the ambulance, and like it just has like this. It doesn't make sense, but I mean, I get like they want to have it so that the they up the body count a little bit, but it's like it's just it was just didn't make sense. My thought was the bear should have a heart attack. It should do like it does like too much cocaine, and then it just has a heart attack, like in the midst of like it charging or something. It just like you see it like keel, like grab its chest or something, and then it keels over, and like people are like elated that they didn't that they're not mauled, and like kind of like maybe it comes back for like one last scare, and it's like that's what does it in. But anything like it was so silly, so dumb. Like the guy shoots the bear like multiple times, like 3 times, and you see it die. And then because cocaine falls into the bear's nostril, it like brings the bear back to life. And it's like, that's dumb. Like, you're not, just because if you are not breathing, respirating air, you're not gonna like have a one last, like just because cocaine goes into your system, you're not gonna get a jolt like in your system that's going to cause you to come back to life. It's not like a adrenaline to get your heart like, it's crazy. If I'm wrong, okay, but I don't think that would happen. I mean, I get it's a movie about a bear doing cocaine, but it's still kind of like, please, attempt to make some sort of semblance of realism out of this stuff. Something. Like, have the bear pass away. The cubs get found by a park ranger, and then they are sent to rehab. I don't know, something. I'm not doing well, but oh well. Honestly, think golf should be like about getting the highest score anyway, so joke's on you, game. I don't know, there's a lot to that movie that was just kind of like, I don't know, I felt like it could have been different. There was definitely something, like, I mean, there's some redemptive points into it. Like, another one was like, well, somebody you would assume that was the bad, like another bad guy within uh, there was plenty of bad guys, but there was another, like a bad guy who attacks one of the bad guys, and it's like he attacks him, and the the it's I think it's again I think it's Ice Cube's son. Um, he he defends himself in this restroom and defends himself against three attackers. Out of those three attackers, I mean, all three of them survive that encounter, but one of them, the skinny one, uh, he he survives like the whole ordeal. He kind of runs off and goes and like starts his life um, off at the end of the movie, and I thought that was kind of nice, like where it was like, because I've seen like where they just have like somebody who runs off in the middle of nowhere, and then they end up getting mauled or like get killed, and it's like out of nowhere they just kind of the killer ends up finding them down the road, and it's like or like the like I'm thinking like something like where it's like, oh, the creature finds them further down, even though they weren't in that vicinity or headed in that general direction. They still end up catching up to that person that runs off into the middle of nowhere. So it was kind of nice to see that sort of like, okay, this guy who's like he talked about wanting to have this ambition to go start his life over in New York City or whatever, and he goes and does that. And there's a little bit of a humorous moment at the end where he's hitchhiking to get a ride to New York City, and he actually had found one of the bags of cocaine, um, and he puts the bag inside of this, like the guy who picks him up is a sheep farmer, so he puts the bag in the back with the sheep. Then he kind of has this like, oh shit moment where he's kind of like, oops, I shouldn't do that, because who knows, I just saw a bear, go crazy over cocaine, and maybe I shouldn't. And I thought that was kind of funny, but it was kind of good to see like a character like kind of escape all that madness and still make it out. um, yeah. And then there's the other one, like where the other, like the guy who towards the end, who kind of turns on his father, and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be part of this. He makes it out, and that's kind of nice as well. So it's like, it's not this total like just senseless killing, but there's also uh, some positive. It was positives, but overall, like unless you're desperate to see it, like kind of like Sharknado, and I think maybe that's what the realm it's supposed to be in, is like kind of a um, obviously off the walls kind of movie, but yeah, if you want to see something like Sharknado, that's kind of a little more grounded, sure, this is a movie go watch. But if you're like, hey, I want to watch a creature feature, this isn't the movie for you. Um, yeah. That was another thing. Like, there's one character, that the one that got his leg, that he was like just mauled, and it took forever. Uh, he was so over the top. It was kind of like he was obnoxious, and it wasn't even obnoxious in like a clever or fun way. It was just kind of like, um, it was just like the actor portraying this character was just too much. Like, why are you so why are you so zany right now? Like, it just didn't feel right or feel like it fit within the movie that they're making. Everybody else is like kind of quasi grounded characters, and then here's this guy who's kind of like off the charts, like, and uh, like and it's just not in a good way or a fun way. It was kind of, yeah, I was kind of just like, okay, that's enough of him. But even still, like, even though he died, it's still kind of like, all right, his death was kind of like, all right, it was kind of drug out a little bit too long. It's kind of like, okay, fast forward this a little bit. And the park ranger, I kind of felt like, uh, you know, like each kind of like person that died in the movie, it kind of like um, her death, like even though you kind of see that she's kind of like somewhat of a bad person within or a villain, if you will. She's kind of like her death isn't like, it's kind of stupid. Like she still has her gun on her, like when she's driving away, and I'm like, and she can't get a shot out. Like, if anything, um, you would have thought like from a story standpoint that would have made more sense to like her accidentally shooting somebody, um, versus like shooting somebody from like where she was standing. Like it just didn't make sense. Like when she's the one that shoots the guy in the head, and she shoots him, and then it's kind of like that was dumb. But then you would think like it would be make more sense for like the guy she shot in the head to get mauled. Like so the bear breaks into the cabin that the three of them were in. Like there's three people in that cabin. The bear breaks in, and like you would think it'd be make more sense for like her to survive the mauling, keep her gun on her, get like have the EMTs like get her out of the house safely and away from the bear, and be like, oh, everything's fine, ma'am, you're doing okay, you're gonna make it. And all of a sudden like the bear shows up and it's chasing him, and then she sees it, and like she pulls out the gun, and somehow like she goes to shoot at it, and the EMT's like looks, it would have made more sense to, like for him to like have gotten shot, and it would probably been more like a shock factor. That way like the driver could have responded to that shooting and then said, oh shit, I gotta stop the car, you killed my partner, I gotta check on him. And then the bear like jumps inside the van and then mauls the villainous game warden, something. But that's where it doesn't, like there's not a lot like real logic to it, because it's like the bear just attacks at random. It doesn't like, it seems like it's solely motivated by using cocaine, but then it's also like, well, I'm just gonna kill whatever's in my way. I don't know. Or I'm gonna kill like just at random. Like why are you chasing this ambulance down? Doesn't make sense. Like there's no cocaine. Like it always got deterred. Like it got deterred from chasing people if there was cocaine around, or if it yeah, like one of the people rescues like the guys who are laying on the ground by sprinkling cocaine in the air, and it's just very like, yeah, it's very it's very bizarre. I don't know, but I probably talked too much about Cocaine Bear for how much I didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but it was just not great, or not as good as I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be funnier, and I thought it'd be a little bit more, like it'd be more interesting and more like it would be put. It should have been put together better. But, oh well. Maybe they'll make a sequel. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. I'm pretty much I've been playing for a lot longer than I normally would, and I think I'm actually going to go for a walk now. So, or ride my bike or do something outside for a second, so that way I can not be sitting in front of the TV all day. I look at computer screens all day, and then I get home and I want to just not make sure I'm not just staring at TV on TV and TV. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you enjoyed me rambling on about TV or movie shows, then feel free to leave a like. If you didn't like what you saw, okay.
Anyway, catch you later, and I'll be on tomorrow, and then Friday. I should have said this before I said catch you later. Friday I'll be back. I'll be probably try to be on early in the morning just because I don't have to work on Friday, so that's nice. Yup. And then Saturday is going to be the Star Wars live stream. Or Saturday's Star Wars stream. Probably play some co-op and then some Starfighter Assault maybe in the afternoon. That's kind of been working out okay. Then Sunday, I don't know. We'll see what Sunday, the direction Sunday goes. See what happens, and then go from there. But yeah. Anyway, hope you have a good rest of your day, and then I'll catch you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.